where he was attacked just out in public due to racism.
And he just ran as quickly as possible before the incident happened.
Now this incident happened. Someone threatened his life when my daughter went through bullying, because the youth of today are the adults of tomorrow who's going to lead this nation. We live in such a time where our children do not know who they are. They do not understand whose they are. And so as parents, this is our duty, our responsibility to teach them these things. Remember, we are their first teacher. We are their first mentor.
Repetition is very important. So the more you tell yourself it, you start to believe it and see it, and then you start to exhibit it in your behavior and actions and things that you do. I've heard a lot of parents or even adults that purchased the book for themselves came to me and said, I wish there was books like this around when I was a child.
Hey leaders, Delisa here from Faith and Sparkles World. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you've enjoyed this special episode, hit that like and subscribe button. Today's podcast is our first back to school special where you'll gain insights from conscious leaders leading the next generation. My guest guides you in ensuring your parental leadership is top shelf to support your children and establish a thriving, successful household. Let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the Conscious Leader podcast. Today is special because we're speaking all things parental leadership. Now, I know we are used to watching or with me sharing on this channel more the conscious leader from a business perspective and how they're consciously leading their industry. But today, my special guest, Yuliana Gunawan, yes, she's here to share how she is leading her home, specifically her son, who experienced a very traumatic experience. And I will allow her to share that shortly, but stay tuned. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you like this episode, I want you to hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get into it. Hi, Juliana. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So I know you and I spoke before, where we talk about how your experience, how you're leading the industry, what leadership was. And then a couple of weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, your son went through a serious life-altering event where he was attacked just out in public due to racism. So please, share a bit more of what's going on.
He normally went for run on Wednesday in the afternoon by himself. And then he went into the public toilet in the park. And in the public toilet, he met one Caucasian teenager. And then he said that if you don't leave the park, the teenager will bash his head. So my son was so frightened, and because he was a good runner, and he just ran as quickly as possible before the incident happened. And from my perspective, right, especially recently, whereby we watched the news in UK about the anti-migrants, and also in US about the presidential campaign, and the president candidate sometimes gives comments about migrants. And it's brought the image of migrants that we steal other people's jobs, and as a result, the racial attack or racism increases eventually. It happens before, during COVID, whereby because we are a Chinese descent, and during the COVID, I received minors racial like kind of like a attack, but it's a minor toward us. That was during the COVID, and now it is the time. So Yes, I think this is need to be addressed because I believe migrants contribute to the economy of the country. Like if we can use our logical thinking, if migrant didn't contribute to the country, the government will eventually stop the program, like
Mhm.
stop taking migrants. Why the government keep on taking migrants? Because it proves that migrants contribute to the success of the country economy.
Yeah. Well, and it's true, right? As the more people are working or starting enterprises, businesses, gaining employment, the better the economy is. Um, but back to your incident in during COVID, and that was a very challenging time. Like, of course, I'm not of Chinese descent, but it was blasted everywhere as the virus coming from China, and that it was invented in a lab, and all of these things that we're saying. And so a lot of people of Asian descent, not only Chinese, because a lot of people don't know the difference from different cultures, if they're Japanese or Korean and such. They were under attack, and
Mm.
they were attacked verbally and physically. A lot of older, especially the older generation was attacked. During that time, how did you explain to your son, like what was going on during that time? So you experienced this minor attack, and then so what? Like, did you set up policies? Did you guys feel like, okay, we can't really do much? What was? Take us through that step.
The steps that I explained to my sons for the his mental health and our mental health
Mm-hmm.
at the time is to ignore,
Mm,
because we have to believe in ourselves that whatever they are saying to us is not true. First, we have to differentiate what is the false belief, which is their perspective on us, which is we cannot control, like we caused the COVID, which is not true, because we didn't cause the COVID. Like personally, as individual, I didn't cause the COVID.
mm-hmm.
My son didn't cause the COVID as an
Ritual.
individuals.
Yes. Okay.
So number one is to recognize what is true and what is false, and number two is to we cannot control what other people say about us, but we can control ourselves, our emotions. So by believing that this is not true, and there are ignorance, and it take control. We have a power to control to
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. Having power to control our emotion is very important,
Yeah.
because as a human, when we have power to choose, it empower us. And secondly, I asked my son to meditate. So when suddenly the anger just burst into us,
Mm-hmm.
asked him to meditate, like inhale and exhale.
Yeah.
So basically, inhale like 8 seconds,
Yeah.
4 seconds,
Breath work.
exhale.
Yeah, you're doing
Yeah.
breath work, coming back
Yes.
to the breath, and bringing down those emotions, like learn to master the emotions, releasing it, and because once we have control of the breath, then now it becomes clearer for us to think clearly. And now instead of reacting, now you're responding. So you're learning to master yourself, and in these types of situations, it's always the victims that have to find the solution to move on.
Mhm.
Because although you were attacked, there wasn't really anything at that time that could have been done. Um, because there were all these other restrictions that's happening. If you go to report it, they might think it's minor, they may not address. There's all of these different factors. But at the end of the day, you needed for you and your home to be safe and to feel secure and to recognize, you have to uh, take those steps, right? To ensure that he also knows how to heal from this so that he
Mhm.
emerges stronger. And I completely understand. I'm a parent. My daughter was bullied as well. And so, taking these actionable steps, you have to um, know and implement in the home. Sometimes before something happens, or even when something happens, you have to know how to help them through that situation so they do not end up festering in anger, in hatred,
Yeah.
in all of these things. And that's exactly what you're sharing with him. And because at the end of the day, when there's hatred, when there is anger, it affects
Mm-hmm.
the person itself, right? It's coming in, you're ingesting that anger, you're ingesting that hatred on a personal level. And so now all these other areas of your life become stuck, becomes blocked, becomes dormant because you're so fixated on a specific emotion that you're allowing to control and dictate your life. Uh, and so
Yes.
I commend you for taking him through that journey with them during COVID when that happened, and people probably said some cruel things. Let's fast forward to 2024, September 2024, and your son, teenager, this is not a young child, he's also not a grown adult yet. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he goes for a run like he normally does every day. Before he went for a run, I want to explain what was the climate like, what was the atmosphere, the energy in that week of what's going on in the news, what's happening, like because did he just when there's an attack, sometimes we think it's random, and sometimes we think it's or mistaken identity, and yes, those things, there's those possibilities that are open. But then in retrospect, when we take a look, we say, was there anything in the news that was happening? Was there anything leading up? Did he know these guys, these young boys that happened?
Nothing. I believe this is kind of like a random because um everything is just normal, just peace,
Yeah.
nothing. I do not know. I believe this is random, but I teach my son instead of consuming with anger. So let's just pray and forgive,
Yeah.
but just let it go
Hmm.
and treat the person as ignorance. And he has to forgive himself and also forgive the persons. It doesn't make any sense when I said that he has to forgive himself, because sometimes when we become a victim, sometimes subconsciously we blame it ourselves,
Hmm.
like I must do something wrong, all the negative thought keep on feeling ourselves and we blame ourselves. So for me, I just teach him to forgive himself.
Hmm.
Maybe he did something wrong or his gesture or something, I do not know. So let's start forgiving himself and forgiving other persons and let it go,
Yeah.
instead of like fixated to that issues and consumes with anger,
Hmm.
and we cannot concentrate and cannot move on.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so that happens. So you were speaking before when we first started. You're saying sometimes people go on TV and they talk about migrants and how migrants are um, taking all the jobs and creating havoc. Was that happening in your area or not?
Not happen in our area,
Hmm.
not happened, but eventually, because it started from the climate overseas. It's always climate overseas when we see the tensions right now in UK, and this is from my experience through the COVID. Like it started news from the feeding news from overseas,
Hmm.
and suddenly normally it happens with the teenagers. Maybe they are not mature enough, or they are not using their logical thinking on wisdoms, or the parents also have the same false belief, and eventually it will affect their reasoning and attitude,
Yeah. Well, I'm.
because this is my how to say, my perspective, right? uh, the economy, when the economy downturn, there must be something to blame. and then the group that needs to be to blame is always a minority. In this case, a migrant.
Yeah. Okay, so there was like a downturn in the economy, and then there's a rise, an increased rise in violence and hatred and stuff towards um, migrants.
Not as severe as in overseas and UK,
Hmm.
but we haven't feel it for a long time. But COVID is getting intense for us, and then suddenly this happened.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, since COVID, I didn't watch TV since November 2021 because I had severe
Mm,
anxiety of receiving the negative news and anxiety of the ratios
yeah.
attack.
Hi, everyone. Today I have another very, very, very special guest. Her name is Tricia Khan, and she is an exceptional children's author. Why is she exceptional? When, there's all of these authors out there. Well, because her work also is her advocacy, and she is here to empower your children. She's teaching them how to lead. How can she teach children to lead? I wonder. Because she has her own children. And her children, she is guiding them effectively in leadership. We live in such a time where our children do not know who they are. They do not
Mm-hmm.
understand whose they are. And so, as parents, this is our duty, our responsibility to teach them these things. Remember, we are their first teacher, we are their first mentor. And Tricia is not only just supporting parents and encouraging their children in this way of self acceptance and loving oneself, but she's doing it in her home with her children so that what she's preaching out there, she's practicing at home. So help me welcome our guest today, Tricia. Tricia, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's definitely a privilege to be here, to be able to share my books, but also what I am doing with my children, not only my children, but how I'm able to advocate and encourage other children and family on how to be confident and how to basically be in control of themselves and their life.
Awesome. I love it. But before we get to any sort of real conversation, please share with the audience who you are, who you serve, and how you're positively influencing others.
Okay, so again, I am Tricia Khan. I am a mother to two wonderful children who are also very purposeful in what they do in the sense of activities and programs. And then I do have a wonderful husband who is very supportive. I'm also a children's book author. I assist other authors who are interested in writing and publishing. I also am a social service worker, so I help children with developmental disability, autism, and whatnot. And I serve as just basically to assist, help, and promote, educate, empower, and encourage others, children and adults, how to, navigate life in a more positive aspect.
Well, what you do is not easy. It takes a lot of emotional and spiritual strength, so that when you leave your workspace, you're not bringing burdens and stress with you in your home. Because then
Mm-hmm.
you leave your workspace, you still have to be a wife to your husband, and you still have to be a mother to your children. And so you need to show up present
Mm-hmm.
to do that. So that takes a lot to for anyone. And this is where the dynamic comes in. Why did you decide to go down this route, not only of becoming a children's book author, and of course being working in the social work industry, but this route of saying, I want to empower the next generation of young children, and it could be anyone, but particularly children of color, and you're saying, I want them to be able to learn to lead themselves. And I want to help parents and guide parents through my work. Why did you decide that?
So, as a parent, but mostly so as an individual myself, as a child, I remember my experiences that I faced, whether it was in school, whether it was building friendship, whether it was in my family dynamic. I had certain experiences that I did not really truly understand as a child. But me as an adult now and having my own two children and seeing the challenges that they faced in school with their peers, whether it's on a sport team or just in everyday life, seeing the challenges that they face and made me realize that this is something that I'm very passionate about, helping and supporting them on how to navigate the life that they're going through. For children, it's not easy because they're kind of forced into this world that they have, an unknown world that they don't even know anything about or what to do. And they're trying to kind of get in an understanding of how do I, my emotions, how do I kind of, harness that, but not really harness, but also be able to express it in a way that is respectful and kind, and how to tap into their own self. And so seeing my own children go through certain experiences brought me back to experiences that I went through as a child. And I realized that if I can, make a difference or help my children overcome these challenges by giving them the baton and allowing them to problem solve and figure out ways how to get over this, then I can extend this on to any other kid. And so when I wrote my children's book, that is the purpose behind my purpose behind my children's book is allowing children to have the opportunity to express themselves, but also solve their own problems. So figure out ways of overcoming the challenges that they're facing. And you know what? I've noticed that it helped my children. And so because I noticed it helped my children build confidence and build a sense of self-awareness, right? Then I knew that I can extend it. And once I extend it, then other children can see themselves on these pages and be able to make a difference in their lives and find out that they do have a purpose and they can make a change just by one simple act.
That's encouraging
Mm-hmm.
because you shared about your own PTSD experience. I know you didn't use that term, but the experience your children had took you to a traumatic experience that you had as a child, how many
Mm-hmm.
decades later? And you
Mm-hmm.
use that trauma, and it may or may not have been a trauma. I'm just using this word trauma to now say I'm going to take that step to heal because I thought I was healed. I thought I was whole, but
Mm-hmm.
really I I know that feeling. I understand what my young sons is experiencing or going through. So let me heal in this other way.
Mm-hmm.
Many people are not looking at it from that perspective because many people are very selfish. And the reason why I say
Mm-hmm.
this, and people probably will be angry that I said that, the reason why people are selfish is because we're so focused on the I. What
Mm-hmm.
can I accomplish? What can I do? How can I live this? Oh, that's okay. And we tend to, I'm just using general terms. People tend to say, oh, well, they're children, they'll get over it. They're resilient. But you said no, no,
Mm-hmm.
because you're seeing children coming to you every single day, but not necessarily your own, but other children who have developmental disabilities, physical disabilities, autism, all of these things. You're seeing that they're coming with so much that you said something has got to change. And then now your heart is ignited with a passion and a fire and a purpose now evolved to help. Now you wrote this book. Your son, for those who don't may or may not know, inspired her first book. Uh, it's my hair, right? It's my hair.
There you go. It's my hair. I don't care.
I don't care. I didn't want to mess it up. That's what I was thinking of.
That's
It's my
okay.
hair, and I don't care. Um, how did he heal? How did he heal? And how, as a family, including you, your husband, and your eldest son, heal from this book? And the reason why I'm asking you this question is because the healing is never singular.
Mm-mm.
All right. So how did your son heal? And as a family, how did you heal from the first book, It's My Hair, I Don't Care?
Okay, so naturally, he's a boy,
Yes.
and a lot of times when we would go out in public, there were comments that were made in regards to him either being a female because he had hair,
Mhm.
or comments in the sense of the texture and whatnot. My son, who loves his hair but didn't really understand his hair, sees a lot of kids with different type hair, if I may be specific, straight hair.
Mhm.
And so, we've gone through challenges where it came combing the hair. And while we're going through these challenges, it brought me back to a time when I, as a child, went through these challenges. But back then, we were permanent hairs. So we were making our hair straighter, right? To avoid the challenges and the struggles that we had to go through. And, it's also stemming systemically from a very deep rooted history of Black culture, right? And, while doing my son's hair, he started not wanting his hair comb. He did not like it because he felt like there was a lot of struggle that came from getting it done. And that's what birthed It's My Hair, I Don't Care, because he ran off and literally said, it's my hair. I don't want to do it. I don't care. And so that birthed that story. It was very important for me to reflect him on the pages, which is why I decided to go independently to publish this children's book, because I needed him to be reflected on each page. And I needed for every Black child to see themselves on these pages that have similar challenges. And so when I did this book, and as I was doing it, I had him in the whole process of getting the book done on how the girl should look and whatnot, right? And, after the book was written, we read the story over and over. I got his feedback on certain things in the book. The joy that came from him is what fueled my excitement to continue, publishing and letting it be seen to many other people, because he built a sense of confidence from it. He started loving his hair, and it happened in such a way where even he wanted to extend it beyond just inside of our home. He wanted for his friends at school to see it. And that is where I got my first opportunity to actually do a read in his classroom. And he was just so proud, so very excited. And it became to a point where he was like, he loved his hair. He didn't have an issue with his hair. He wanted me to comb it. We took time now. We figured out ways on how we were going to do it to make it be an enjoyable time, as opposed to a time where he felt more of a struggle. And, it's in the end where he was able to see, hey, there's a beauty that comes at the end of this entire process. And for myself, it caused me to think going back natural, to which I did, right? And it caused my younger son to see how beautiful his curls are, to appreciate it to the point where this day he has now long hair, right? And it just built a sense of connection for us as a family, and knowing that we might have different hair curls, but we all have similar challenges. And so once we voice it and once we're able to work together, then, there's a beauty that comes in the end, and the sense of confidence that we all can get from just a simple hair routine.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into the rebirth conference and all the ways you're supporting mothers, I really want to understand that shift between 2019, just before all the mandates came in, and 2023, because that is a massive shift in about 2 or 3 years. Yeah, because so let's say in a 2-year period, you went through a huge transformation from I'm standing to fight, I'm fighting the good fight, to I'm becoming a solutionist. What was that transition like for you?
It was actually very hard, to be honest. It just, I created this space. I was being welcomed on, public stages. I was being welcomed to participate in global events. I was asked to go speak in Vienna. And it was the people I was meeting, the doctors I was meeting, just not even, and just regular citizens standing up, journalists, like all these incredible people that I'm so honored to have met, to be connected with. It was really hard to make that choice, if I'm being honest, was to leave all that behind. But I knew that I just didn't want to keep fighting this narrative and be a part of, fighting against these systems that I didn't want to be a part of anyways. I didn't want to keep being in this same echo chamber where we're kind of talking about the same thing over and over again. It's like, okay, we know what happened. We know what side of history we're on. We know that we were right in the sense of making the choices that we did, but what are we doing about it? And that's where I found there was always this missing piece. Every time I went somewhere, I was like, okay, we keep talking about the research, the evidence, and all this stuff to kind of prove what we had stated all along, but where are we going with it? Where are people going to turn to? Where are people going to go when they have this information? What do they do with it once they know this? And so it was really hard to leave all that behind, what I had been a part of, because I was like, okay, well, my whole identity is going to change again. I went from being a nurse, and that identity was gone, and then going into being this freedom activist and very public voice in the forefront of so many events and public speaking engagements. And I was like, okay, well, now that identity is going to be gone. And what does that mean? So I had definitely a hard time with that transition, but I knew that it was placed again on my heart. I knew that that was a message that I had to be obedient to from God. And being pregnant with baby girl, I so wanted to make sure her pregnancy, her growth was protected. I had two losses prior, one each, after my first son, one after my second son. And the second loss was 2021 during the national hospital rallies that we had organized, where we were there standing up for the nurses and their mandates. And I received so much hate after that event that I wonder, how much that affected that pregnancy at that time. So with that, the transition was also made because I wanted to make sure that my pregnancy was protected, that there wasn't this negative energy, that this baby that I was growing was going to be protected. So that was a big part of making the shift, was honoring this baby that was growing inside of me. And I was literally creating life. So I was like, okay, well, in this creation mode, how are we going to create solutions for these children that we're bringing into this world? Where are they going to go? What's the future look like? How can we bring them hope? I needed something to work towards, knowing, our children are going to be okay, because there's going to be other solutions. There's other things that they're going to go, that they can be a part of and grow into. So that was kind of the shift. It didn't come easy, but it started with wanting to protect my pregnancy, mainly because my first two boys, I was this nurse who thought home birth should be illegal. I was very much bought into the fear that birth was dangerous, that birth, thank goodness for the medical system. Thank goodness it was all there to save us from being pregnant. And so I had the epidural, induction, the whole work in the hospital with my first two sons. And with this pregnancy in 2023, I was doing it out of system at home with a traditional birth companion. And I wasn't going through any tests. I wasn't doing anything. I was not part of the system at all. So I really wanted to protect that space, entering in this totally different realm of physiological home birth. So that's kind of how the transition came to be.